And welcome back to Matter of Facts Podcast. I really, really hope that this thing is behaving itself correctly because we've had all freaking kinds of technical problems the last couple of shows that I don't even think most of y'all are aware of, to be honest.
Phil fixes it in post.
I really do work my behind off in post trying to make everything behave itself. Hey, Raggle, that's mild comfort. Because if he can hear us, that means we have made it out to the internet.
Behold, internet.
Yeah. But yeah, we've I've been fighting with technical issues on the backside of this podcast for a hot minute. It's been more than a little bit frustrating.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, that is the nature of the electrons.
Yeah. Right now, I'm actually just kind of bumping through everything to make sure that everything is actually behaving itself.
Ah, good. The dog
Okay.
can hear me.
Your wife has confirmed they can hear us.
Woo. No,
Okay,
the pre-record
so-
is next week.
So yeah, since Raggle brought it up, he's reminding me of the admin work that has to be done. So this episode is live. We're still here. Next week is the one that's pre-recorded. So Nick and I will not be here. And if you wanted a good night to show up and misbehave in the chat, that's the night to do it because I won't be here to stop you.
True. Also, I
But-
think we forgot to do the admin work on the pre-record.
Did
Whoops.
we?
I think we skipped it entirely. Because I think you got me on a rant and then we got on a sidetrack.
We really can't go from a rant straight into a sidetrack. We should know better.
We should know better, but it happens so often.
Oh, you know what I just thought of? I bet I know what's goofed up here.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I boogered something up here.
Did you forget to set the local backup?
I bet I did.
Mother of God.
Yep. Local recording is not running.
Can we start it midstream?
We can't. We cannot.
Fuck.
So I will have to use the cloud recordings, which are usually not quite as good, but it'll work out. And we're gonna get this. We're gonna get the train back on the tracks.
One of these days, they will stop messing with the interface, and Phil will be able to remember where all the buttons are.
Well, to be fair, part of this is because, like, you know, I was using Chrome for the longest time, and that was good. And then Chrome started misbehaving badly.
It did.
So then Firefox was okay, and then Nick convinced me to try Edge, and Edge actually seems to be pretty stable for this. Unfortunately, that meant that I am still chasing down all the settings and all the gremlins that I had in Chrome that worked perfectly.
Yeah.
And now I have to remember all those settings in a brand new interface and browser.
I have to say, the last couple episodes where you've been using Edge, I have gotten almost no cutouts from your audio, which has been quite nice.
It's definitely better. I gotta go through the whole thing. Jeff Jag saying, greeting gents, to carry over from the Signal chat. Philip Ludy's homemade expedient firearms. Don't beat me to the goddamn punchline. So let's do admin work and then we'll get to the topic. This will be a fun one. There are patrons in the chat, and there's patrons in the Signal chat, and there's patrons all over the country. And if you would like to join this group of sociopaths, you should consider it. The link's in the show description. $1 a month or however much you feel like being generous. It keeps the show running, and it means I don't have to deal with sponsors, which I am eternally thankful for.
And you can come watch me try to get Phil drunk in Kentucky.
Yes, it does also gain you entry to the Matter of Facts camping trip, which is coming up in the summer. And what do you mean try to get me drunk? Like I take a lot of arm twisting to indulge.
I mean, I made you a triple that was significantly stronger than you were expecting last time.
Yes, fortunately, something about the Cherokee blood in me means that I get hammered really quick and sober up really quick. So, like,
yeah, it's a damn shame.
I'm a cheap drunk, but about 30 minutes of water and no more drinking, and I'm pretty much back to normal.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, your wife was there and noticed how full that cup was of 90% bourbon.
She encourages my malfeasance most of the time.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, Raggle wants to know how he can give you money.
Damn it.
One of these days.
As soon as, okay, so Raggle.
Buy his coffee.
The problem is I can think of a couple of good ways you could throw money at the show to support the show. That's not the problem. The problem is all of the like back episodes, all the perks of being a patron are like backed into Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know a good way to get you to that without that interface.
We could mail him a USB of the raw audio files.
He lives close enough to me. I could invite him over and he could just shove a thumb drive into my machine if he wanted to.
I suppose he could.
Then again, I could also
Dead drops of cash?
Then again, I do have a Proton drive that's got like 15 gigs on it, if I remember right. And that's where I'm storing like the entire show and all of Raising Values and all random facts.
Interesting.
Yeah, we're up to like episode 400 and something on Matter of Facts. So like there's a lot in there.
I should just start sending you empty hard drives for cold storage.
I've got an extra hard drive right back here that all that backs up onto. I've got a big friggin' 1 terabyte in this machine that it backs up onto. I've got a cloud drive. It's backed up in several spots. I know you have like a 5-drawer file cabinet.
Did you use the word big and 1 terabyte hard drive in the same sentence?
Well, but that's the one that's internal to this drive.
You can put more than one inside.
Not in this tiny little thing.
You want to bet you can't? I bet you I can fit at least 3 more in there.
Nick, stay away from my desktop.
No.
I need
the only thing that can make me is the fact that you're that far away.
Raggle saying he does buy my coffee. Technically, it's coffee. Me and Andrew and James Walton's coffee, and it is really good coffee. There's actually like 35 pounds of it back there on the shelf because, if I'm going to be a warlord when the world falls away, I have to be able to keep my minions drank. Anyway, merch of the Southern Gals, links in the show description. I've really got to make some time to like sit down with the Brannons and like take another look at that merch line.
Yeah, well, I really know if you want to do a video conference, we can do that.
Yeah, it's just one more thing to have to do in the midst of everything else that's going on. Rachel, I would happily make you two the best deal on a pair of camping cots in my living room because we don't have a spare bedroom.
Works for me.
Just ask Nick how long of a drive it is to get to South Louisiana from y'all.
It's only like 14 and a half hours. And like 7 of those hours is in Illinois. So I'm already like halfway there by the time I get somewhere cool.
Oh God, I hate your state.
Me too.
So passionately.
It's bad, but it's bad. But I did, thanks to a friend of one of our patrons, I have got access to a private range, a private gun club, hopefully here soon toward the end of the month.
Fun.
So I'll get to do much more shooting, hopefully without range masters asking me why I am doing double taps and triple tap drills. Because apparently that's too fast.
Yeah, I hate those people. Anyway, to the topic. Otherwise, we'll ramble on all night about range days and firearms, and we'll probably pick up where we were in the signal chat. We were talking about obscure French firearms from World War One.
Yeah. So
we kind of teased out that we were going to talk about the prepper library, and I think that so Andrew and I talked about this years ago. And
I think you and I talked about it a couple of years back too. In like the abstract.
Yeah. We kind of talked
detail.
We didn't talk about it in a lot of detail, and it wasn't like really targeted. It was kind of in generalities.
Yeah.
This time we're going to talk about it a little bit more pointed.
ISBN numbers.
Well, FM, TM numbers and all that. But I enjoy going over this kind of thing because there's I would think, broad cross section of the preparedness world that knows damn good and well how to find every freaking Army field manual and technical manual out there if you really want to do some digging.
Yeah.
Most of
For
the stuff,
free.
Yeah, for free. Most of the
Library of
stuff,
Congress, excellent resource.
most of this stuff has been declassified for decades, since before most of us were born. It's available. It's out there. Most of it's still pretty pertinent and pretty useful. It's not difficult to find, but there is a group out there that doesn't even realize some of this stuff exists. Like, especially for, I would think, a lot of younger only civilians that weren't military. They have, I don't think it even occurs to some of them that, like, you have to bear in mind that your average, how can I politely talk about my fellow veterans, of which there are several in the chat? Some of my fellow brothers and sisters in the Army and Uncle Sam's misguided children were not the brightest crayons in the box. They ate the crayons and probably the box too. And so,
to be fair, the crayon munching ones are some of the better ones.
True, but for that reason, you cannot depend on common sense to guide them very well, and everything must be written on like a 7th grade reading level.
Well, also considering the fact that a lot of them, when they join, are 17, 18, and Phil, I don't know if you remember being 17 or 18. It's been a few years, but I was dumb. Like, really dumb.
I enlisted when I was 17. I was slightly smarter than the average private, and I was still very dumb.
So you could tie your shoes on your own.
I mean, not bragging, I had an 89 composite score on my ASVAB, 132 on the mechanical aptitude portion. Ace.
I'm not sure what those numbers.
Suffice to say that I scored high enough on the ASVAB, I could have walked into military intelligence if I decided to.
Nice.
I'm not a stupid person. I have the common sense of a sack of potatoes, but I'm not a stupid person. But the problem is, like, even everything I had to learn how to fix a Black Hawk helicopter came in a stack of books about this tall.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they give you a toolbox and say, go make whirlybird noises. Everything's documented. Everything's written down. Every procedure, every bolt, every nut, every torque spec, everything's written down. Everything's documented. That's the way the military works. And by extension,
exhaustive detail.
Yeah, and it has to be that way. But for that reason, this documentation is still floating around on the internet, and it's very useful for a person who's trying to expand their knowledge base and learn skills that are slightly off the beaten path, maybe even on the beaten path. But anyway, I'm going to flip 2 of these things around, and that's going to completely screw up. That's going to completely screw up the order I'd put this in. But let's put it back the way it was. Otherwise, I'll get myself completely jacked up. So let's start with medical crap, because that is the order in which I started putting all this together. So this is FM 21-11. You can literally search Google for these documents. FM 21-11, First Aid for Soldiers. And this is a literal field manual for how to keep your buddy from dying. It's written on about a 6th grade reading level. It's easy to understand. It's filled with information, some of which has been superseded by more recent information. And that's kind of where some of this stuff needs to be taken with a grain of salt, because, like, Nick and I were talking before the show, and this whole section in here about basic first aid, this has all kind of been superseded by more recent information. Like,
following this, I would have to say, following this can work. There are better techniques now, but if your choice is between I know nothing and I have this book, not a bad place to start. It may not be best practice, but these things did work, just not as well.
Yeah. And I mean, like, now when you get down to about chapter 4, when you talk about stop the bleeding, when you talk about preventing shock, when you talk about first aid for severe wounds and immobilizing fractures, like, none of this is going to turn you into a paramedic. But if you have next to or zero medical knowledge, all of this is a really good place to start to kind of orient yourself into the mode of, like, I have an emergency medical situation. How do I deal with it? If you know nothing, this is not a bad place to start.
another good place for basic medical info is the old Boy Scout handbooks. I'm not talking about the ones from like the last 10 years or so. Go back to like the 1980s, maybe early 1990s Boy Scout handbooks. They had an exhaustive first aid section that is almost word for word in this manual, just with slightly different tools.
Yeah. I will say, when you get down to like chemical, biological agents, nerve agents, and all that, I hope you don't need that chapter, but it is in here if you just are in
If
the
you
world's
do,
worst situation.
and you don't have mop training and mop gear, it just let it happen.
Pretty much at that point. The other thing I threw in here is ST 31-91, the Army Special Forces Medical Handbook, which is a lot of building on FM 21-11. And just to be perfectly fair, some of this is getting into some pretty, I don't want to call it esoteric, but I mean, bearing in mind that the mission of Special Forces, think the Green Berets. You're embedded with Native forces. You're not just a soldier. You're a soldier. You're the assistant village chieftain. You might be the only medical asset for 100 miles in any direction. This book goes into pediatrics and gynecology and burns and blast injuries and, shock and emergency surgery. This covers some pretty extreme things. But again, if you're in the situation of I know nothing and I am stuck in the middle of nowhere and I have to figure it out, that is where this book really comes in. It takes FM 2111 and builds on all of it to a higher level, to obviously not the level of a Green Beret, but this is the book that is meant to codify a lot of that knowledge.
And if you do find yourselves wanting some more in-depth, more modernized, look for secondhand medical textbooks on, say, like diagnostic medicine. Yeah, you might not have like the names of the tests or necessarily the best medicine recommendations, but the diagnostic criteria for a lot of diseases does not change very often. And if you can get last year's model, because I believe the current ones are hundreds of dollars, but you can get secondhand ones of a year or 2 years old for closer to like 50, 75 bucks sometimes. They can have some really great bits of information in there. It does require you to have a little bit higher level of learning because it is going to be using medical terminology, but it's an option.
Yeah. Before we go any further, I got to remember to throw this up. Ooh. So I put all these TMs and FMs I'm going to show you tonight. I shoved into a folder in my Google Drive. I made it shareable at that QR code up there. So I'm going to leave that up for the rest of the show. And honestly, like if any of y'all are on social media and know how to get hold of me there or the Signal chat, remind me and I'll drop this link in there to make it easy. And frankly, Nick, if you want to include anything, just ship it to me and I'll swap it over and drop it into this drive.
Let me dig through. I have a hard drive with about 100 terabytes of PDFs on it, or 100 gigabytes of PDFs.
Stuart is going to raise the two of us because he has
all of it.
Yeah,
he has everything I have.
He has everything.
He's had longer to collect it all.
To be fair,
I mean, when it was written.
To be fair, Stuart had already been basically he'd already been a prepper for 20 years before I was born.
I have blueprints for the show shot in that drive.
That seems worthwhile.
That seems like a thing everyone needs.
All right. So medical crap is done. Now let's talk about the basics. So the reason I call this the basics is because this to me is kind of a broad cross-section of different stuff. And someone's probably wondering why I start with the Ranger Handbook. And this book is not what you think. This is SH 21-76. This book, if you get past, the Ranger Creed and all that, it gets into things like principles of leadership, duties and responsibilities, assumption of command. It talks about operations, and fire support, which may or may not be super useful to you. But the whole first 2 chapters on this is really more about how to organize a force to do a thing. And the principles are not that different whether you're talking about a mag or a fire team.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, proper organization and logistics are really what separates quality operations from everything else. I mean, the reason why the US military can do all the crazy things it's doing right now in Iran is because it is organized down to the minutest possible detail, and all of it is supported by a logistics chain.
Yeah. And getting down here into, I don't know that I encourage any of y'all to go through this chapter with a lot of military mountaineering, talking about belays and rock climbing techniques and rappelling. Like, I did some of this years and years ago when I was much younger, like tying Swiss seats and basically rappelling with things that are not rated for rappelling. Do so at your own risk.
Quality rappelling gear is expensive for a reason.
Yeah. Rope and stupidity is cheap. Actually, rope is cheap. Stupidity can be expensive.
You know, Dr. Scary Guy makes a good point. Knots are always useful. They are. But please if you plan on rappelling off of anything, while we can, get some correct instruction from a person that actually knows what they're doing, because reading it in a book and attempting it for the first time in the real world is a bad idea.
Yeah, and I'd probably also throw in here this chapter 11 about evasion and survival. If your interest in preparedness veers more towards bugging out or like primitive survival, learning to put together field expedient shelters, this can be very useful.
Mm-hmm. Again, test in safety with backups first.
Yeah.
The first time you attempt to start a friction fire, you will be miserable, and it probably won't work.
Before we move on to the next book, didn't I tell you the story? I used to know a guy who taught a primitive survival school over on the East Coast, South Carolina, North Carolina.
I think which. You have.
Yeah, he used to. The ending of his fire starting class, he would have every single student use whatever method he had taught that they preferred to try to make a fire. Like bow drill, banging rocks together, dancing around it, praying to gods, whatever they wanted, they had to try to start a fire. He said it was a 98% failure rate.
That's not surprising.
But he did it like that intentionally because he's at the end of everyone failing, he would walk around with a cigar torch and say, you can buy these for less than $10 and they're windproof and they will start that fire even if it's a little damp. So knowing how to do a friction fire is cool, but having one of these is better. And that was kind of his whole point about everything he taught, like how to make a shelter from a tarp, how to do this, how to do that. It was always, this is a last resort. Your first order of business should be to have this in your pack, not to go out into the woods barehanded and just figure life out, because that sucks. Anyway, okay. FM 3-25, map reading and land navigation. There's a joke here, I'm sure, because everyone who ever served has a joke about land nav. Everyone has gotten lost at least once. Everyone has gotten turned around.
Everybody that's ever been in Boy Scouts has jokes about land nav.
I will be the first to admit, when I was in basic training, I was learning land nav. I was freaking determined I was going to ace land nav. I was a competitive little 17-year-old. I was like gunning for, like I wanted expert marksman. I missed that by one shot. I wanted to blow the land nav away. I missed that by one waypoint. My entire basic training was just this. It wasn't like I was ever like right on the verge of not passing. I passed easily. It was always, I was just one little bit away from like woohoo recognition. Like, no, just if you just been like a tiny little bit better, you'd have got a pat on the butt.
My grandfather would have said you did exactly what you should have in basic. Do just enough that you're just below recognition.
Yeah.
And not poorly enough that you don't get other recognition.
Well, unfortunately, when I was learning land nav, I actually nailed every waypoint except for one that I missed. And the problem was I misread. First of all, it was the longest stretch on this course. And apparently I got started off like 4 or 5 degrees off. And I wound up on the wrong side of a ridge line. I read the map as I got kind of lost in the ridges and the valleys, looking at the map, and I thought I was supposed to be on this side of the ridge. I was supposed to be on that side of the ridge, and
Oops.
Some smartass in their infinite wisdom put check-in points that looked exactly alike on both sides of the ridge, so that if you went to the wrong side, you got the wrong waypoint.
Oops.
Yeah, I was not the only one that made that mistake, but I was very annoyed.
Seems like that was done on purpose.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Also, just for reference for anybody, if you're looking at an old TM or FM and you see this right here where it says remove old pages, insert new pages, this is literally just a change notification. It tells you that when this got updated on 18 January 2005, the instructions were to remove these pages and replace them with these pages to update the information. Just because the Army is trying to save paper when you're trying to update, like, 10,000 manuals across the country.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
to be fair, at that point, it was more difficult when this was written.
Yeah, well, this was back in the day when like everything was paper manuals that were maintained at your unit.
Yup.
But so yeah, I don't know how much I really have to go into what map reading and land nav is. I mean, you're literally learning to read these maps, which I wouldn't say there's anything particularly special about the maps that the military uses. Like, you can get comparable ones from, what is it?
Topomaps.com.
Topomaps.
MyTopoMap.com. I think it's the one. They'll even send you printed copies.
USGS, U.S. Geographical Service. They have
the problem with the USGS maps is they are not as up to date as other sources. I will tell you that.
That is true. So they're fairly good, but you're right.
As far as topographical information, the USGS maps are fine, perfectly acceptable. If you want it to include roads, bridges, industrial areas,
that's going to be a little bit different.
MyTopomaps.com will do custom maps for that of your area. I've got a pretty big one that's vinylized or rubberized or something like that for our area. It's quite nice.
I had actually started a project forever ago and I never completed it. I was going to print all the map tiles from USGS of basically like everything within a mile of my area, and then laminate them and do this whole wall. So I had like a wall size topographical map of like my home and a couple of points of interest pinned, and then the area around it. And it ended up not happening because what's over here is all the Mantis X targets.
Better use, I think.
I mean, debatable. But anyway, this whole book is all land nav. It's map reading. If you already know how to read maps, you should probably still give this a peruse. If you know absolutely nothing about how to navigate using a map, this is not a bad place to start, because the principles of land nav have not changed since George Washington.
No, they really have not. And again, if you can't get this, which you can get it for free online, Boy Scout handbooks have the exact same stuff. They've been teaching it to Boy Scouts since it was started. You can find a number of YouTube videos that walk through this in a how-to, where they talk you through the rationale behind it. If you're a person that needs the rationale behind it to keep something in your head, like I do, can be helpful.
Yeah. Next up, TC 31-29, Special Forces caching techniques. Now, I will happily, first of all, this is not caching, C-A-S-H. This is caching, C-A-C-H. And I will just forewarn anyone that reads this that like this is very, very, very bland. But let's say hypothetically, you're just getting into preparedness, and you are preparing for, say, a bug out situation where you do have to literally cache things outside your home. or you're preparing for a bug in situation where you're caching things in your home. I find that this gives you a really good kind of step-by-step methodology to think about in a rational, compartmentalized way how to cache these things. It
Mm-hmm.
talks about things like, oh, I'm looking for a spot where it really, like, once you get past this whole section about caching things outside. All right, starts talking about equipment, sketch of the site. A lot of this really is kind of aimed at, like, if you're caching things outside, but once you get into things like packaging and steps in packaging, cleaning, drying, like, these are things that are equally applicable inside the home.
For long-term storage, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And here's something I'll be the first to admit I suck at enclosing instructions.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I've got buckets of food, and I have fairly vague indications on the outside of those buckets what's actually inside those buckets.
Blue painter's tape and marker.
And here's the bastard of it. Whatever I wrote on them at the time made perfect, complete sense to me. And now I look back at them like, I can't remember exactly what I was thinking or what I put in here. But if it ever gets to that situation, I guess we're going to figure it out.
Could always just open it.
Yeah, and I do that occasionally, but I also use oxygen absorbers. So
Oh, that's fair.
once you pop one, it's kind of a, one and done.
So you use oxygen absorbers inside the bucket, not inside the bagged subcomponents?
Yes.
Interesting.
So what I do is a lot of the things I'm putting away in my food storage are like literally bought from grocery stores.
Right.
So like the bags of rice stay in their plastic packaging, the bags
Sure.
of beans stay in their packaging. I fill the bucket up so that there's little airspace left as possible.
Right.
Pop an oxygen absorber and usually a desk impact too, just in case there's a little
Doesn't
bit of latent
hurt.
moisture. Well, okay, and when you live down here and your relative humidity in the summer is like 90%,
Yeah, it's all the humid.
a desiccant pack is a good idea.
Oh, I would never dispute that. Not in your area.
But I'll toss a desiccant pack and an oxygen absorber in there, take the lid, and these are gasketed lids. So you literally have to use a hammer. Ooh, I wonder if that's where I lost my dead blow hammer too. It's probably sitting
where it is.
It's probably sitting on top of one of those buckets. I went looking for it the other day in my toolbox, couldn't find this stupid thing, and I bet I just solved the mystery.
I'm surprised that you haven't gone to the Gamma Seal threaded lids with the gasket on them.
If I have to when I buy some more, I probably will. But I bought a bulk pack of these SOBs before I even knew gamma lids were a thing.
So I got luckily introduced to that by very early on.
Yeah, well, in this case, y'all introduced me to them a couple years too late.
Man, that happens.
But these are gasketed lids. You literally have to like set them on with a dead blow hammer, and then you have to have a bung wrench to take them back open.
Yeah, you gotta cut them off almost.
Well, I will say that I have they call it a wrench. Basically, it's just it's kind of like a gigantic bottle cap opener, but it literally like flexes and pulls back the lid enough to release the seal. And once that happens, you can like peel the sides of the lid up. But I'm gonna tell you that
a lot of times it does crack the lid though when you do that.
I've gotten pretty lucky, and maybe that's because of the ambient temperatures down here. Because you got to bear in mind, like when it freezes or snows down here, that's a very, very cold winter for us. Mm-hmm. And these things are garage kept, so
yeah, plastic is happier above 70 degrees than it is below 70 degrees.
Yeah, and it's above 70 degrees like 9 to 10 months out of the year down here.
Yeah, I suppose that would probably improve the flexibility significantly.
Yeah. But anyway, I tossed this in because like this really is primarily aimed at caching things outside, but a lot of this is also really useful for caching things inside. And again, I like this manual because it kind of gives you a framework.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of these do. It's not like it's going to tell you everything you need to know, but it is a framework so that if you know fuck all about it, this will at least kind of walk you through the steps and the brain work so that you don't start off completely turned around.
At the very least, it gives you a starting point to work forward from. It's better than having nothing.
Yes. All right. A couple more, and then we'll move on to the fun stuff. FM 31-20-5. This is Special Reconnaissance Tactics and Techniques. So I'm just going to say there's a fair amount of this particular manual, and I mainly include this because, like, again, the principles in here apply to a variety of things. If you're walking your neighborhood because you're trying to see what's going on with your neighbors, if you're just like practicing good situational awareness and you treat going out into the town as an opportunity to like observe your surroundings and see what's going on around you, like a lot of this really helps set up that framework so that you are thinking about this in a logical way.
It gives you some techniques too for how to categorize stuff in your head to help you remember it, and how to document it so you can pass it on reliably.
Of course, I sped right past.
Oh no.
I'm not even gonna bother because every time I try to like go to a specific chapter, I wind up blowing right past it.
It happens.
But yeah, talking about pre-mission activities and really just going through like the nuts and bolts of like how to approach reconnaissance as a subject can be really helpful. I think that's okay. That's it for the moment.
So one of the things I tacked on here in the basics, because I think that a lot of people would be able to do more for themselves if they had a little bit of basic information about how stuff works in their house. Go down to your local hardware store and pick up a basic book, or local bookstore, a basic book on plumbing and a basic book on home electrical. Because most of that stuff can be troubleshooted with a couple of wrenches or a screwdriver, and you can save yourself a ton of money in the long run, which can help you budget for preps long term. Another thing that I've done that I don't see a ton of people doing is I put every single manual for all of my power equipment, power tools, any appliances in binders. I have 3 or 4 now of different like 1.5-inch binders. I've got gas power. This one is mostly gas power equipment. And if I go to my spring and fall maintenance cycle, I grab the gas power equipment binder. I go through it and I go, okay, I need 1 quart of oil for this machine. I need 3 quarts of oil for this machine. I need 8 quarts of oil for my truck. And I go down the list. I make myself a list, check my stocks in the garage, and then top it all up. Find out what I need and get it ahead of time. But I never have to go searching for my manuals, because on one of our bookshelves is several binders in a row that are just full of manuals for just certain things. Now, I know some people are like, I don't need to read the manual. You do, because I guarantee you don't know what spark plug you need for your generator off the top of your head, looking at the spark plug that's been in there for 10 years that the writing is all rubbed off of.
Yeah,
just little things like that. Which air filter you need for whatever piece of equipment. It's just stuff that can make your life a little bit easier and take a little bit of mental load off yourself. It helps.
I'll also say that, like, in addition to that, I mean, YouTube University can be a great thing, and exercising your Google foo. I cannot tell you the amount of stuff I have fixed over the years by Googling this piece of equipment is doing this.
You will find someone that is smarter than you that has already solved that problem.
Matter of fact, I had an issue with okay. Nick, what is the one thing you are not supposed to do with a gas lawnmower if you want it to behave itself? Like the one thing you're definitely not supposed to do. Sorry, 2 things.
Well, flip it upside down or leave gas in it over the winter.
Ding, ding, ding. So I didn't leave gas in it.
You did both, didn't you?
I didn't leave gas in it over the winter. It was actually the last cut of the summer. And, okay, down here, you get to that point in the summer where like the grass growing starts to slow down. And I thought I had cut it for the last time of the year. Like I thought I got away with it.
Sure.
And then my wife informed me that no, it did indeed need one more cut, which annoyed me. So I went and took the lawnmower out that had been sitting in the shed with gas in the freaking carb bowl for 6 weeks. Ethanol gas.
Do you have a place that sells non-ethanol gas?
Yes,
Why were you not buying that for your lawnmower?
because I'm an idiot and a cheapskate.
That's fair. It does cost a little bit more.
Yes, but normally what I do is the last time I use these things for this, for like the season, is I turn off the petcock, I run them until they're dry, get all the fuel out of the bowl, and I hadn't done that. So I pulled this thing out, I yanked the ripcord, and it was surging and bucking and just throttling, doing all the things you don't want a lawnmower to do. And so I got on Google and said, Honda, this brand, this model lawnmower is surging. And within 60 seconds, I had a YouTube video that literally showed you how to pull off and disassemble and clean and rebuild the carburetor.
Yep.
Took me no parts. I was prepared. Like, honestly, at that point, if I'd have torn something, I was going to get a rebuild kit and a fresh carburetor and just do what I had to do. But I actually got away with it. Didn't rip any seals or anything. And it took me nothing but a couple of screwdrivers and a bench vise.
Yeah, that's you. Carburetors are pretty simplistic devices. They're not that complicated. The trouble you can get into is when you get into like small two-stroke engines like chainsaws and weed whips, those little tiny carburetors with the little tiny valve pins. Yeah. It can be very hard to get the varnish out of those without scoring that inside of the valve pin. And then once you do, you're done. It's just garbage.
But I will say that, like, if you find yourself in that position where you're fooling with a little carburetor, if it ain't working, you can't make it much worse.
Accurate.
So that's very true. Nothing to lose by trying to take it apart and hose the bastard out with carb cleaner.
And realistically, hosing out with carb cleaner, that's like 80% of the time it fixes it.
Well, I took the steps to take this thing apart, pull the float out, pull the needle out, and like really like pumped carb cleaner through all the passages and everything in it. And when I put it back together and like got everything back together, I had to pull the ripcord quite a few times to get fuel all the way back in and fill the bowl.
Because you do have to suck fuel back in.
But once that thing fired, it ran like brand freaking new.
Yeah, because there wasn't varnish blocking the carburetor needle. Yeah.
And then when I got it finished, I turned that petcock and let it run itself all the way dry.
Do you put stable in all of your fuel?
I put stable in the fuel that I'm storing for a length of time. Usually the can that I'm like feeding the lawnmower out of, I don't, but that's because usually I'm mowing, like down here, I'm mowing lawn every week in the summer.
I keep about, let's see, 6 gallons to a jerry can. So it's like 24 gallons of fuel I keep. And every time I fill up those 5-gallon cans, because sometimes we go through less fuel than others. Sometimes because the fuel's been sitting so long, I dump it in my wife's car or my truck. I put stable in all of those all the time. And I have had so many fewer issues with my small engines just because the fuel doesn't get slightly off.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a big lawn. I have a lawn tractor. I go through a fair amount of fuel in the summer.
I will say that the one thing that I started doing a while back, and admittedly there are cheaper ways to do it, but like I went out and bought 4 or 5 of the big 1-gallon jugs of pre-mixed 2-stroke fuel, like Husqvarna or Steel brand.
Yeah, for your chainsaw.
And for the chainsaw and for the weed eater, which is string trimmer. We call them weed eaters around here.
Same,
but thing. Same thing. But anything that's
string,
anything that's 2-stroke, I just run it off of that stuff. I have
it's basically ethanol-free gas with slightly higher octane.
Yeah. But to me, it's ethanol free. It's already got the correct amount of oil in it. Like it's
sealed.
Yeah. And for as often as I have to pull out a chainsaw and really work it, like the cost involved in buying it like that, where it's already sealed up and it's until you break the seal, it's supposed to be shelf stable for a couple of years. Like I see no reason not to invest in that. Now that said, I've got about 8 or 9 of the little bottles that you pour into a 1-gallon container to, make your own 2-stroke fuel. So if I was going to be using the chainsaw a lot, I do have that available.
Yeah.
But for pull it out, cut a couple of things, put it away, just pour a half tank full in there and let it eat.
It does work pretty good. Rango brings up a good point. Have you considered a battery-powered lawnmower? First off, no. I have 1.134 acres or something like that. I know that number off the top of my head because you guys will hear about it next week. I'm in a pissing match with the county. So, no, I would absolutely not consider a battery-powered lawnmower because my lawn is large, and sometimes I have to mow it twice a week. And I do have a battery-powered string trimmer, which I fucking love. It's one of those Milwaukee M18 single battery jobbers. I can do my entire yard almost 3 times on a single battery. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
I might one day find myself drug over to the dark side, but I don't know. I've grown up with gas-powered everything, and
I have used gas powered chainsaws, and or gas and electric powered chainsaws. My dad has a very nice Stihl brand battery operated chainsaw. It's okay. It's a good trim saw. If you have a couple branches you need to cut up or a small tree that you need to do, it's okay as long as it's a softwood tree. I have 34 or 35 hardwood trees in my yard, and occasionally one of them will fall down or drop a very large branch. That saw does not handle it, but what I can tell you, my little Stihl 2-stroke 16-inch trim saw, fantastic. If I need something bigger, I've got an old Shenandoah that is essentially a dirt bike with a handle with a 30-inch bar. That'll be fine.
Nice.
I did get too angry with our old string trimmer. I was given an old string trimmer that had problems when I got it, and I, through belligerence, kept it for several years, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse no matter what I fixed on it. So finally one day I just got fed up. I drove down to the hardware store and I bought a brand new battery powered one because I just didn't want to deal with it anymore.
See, I'm going the other direction of like, I like my gas powered chainsaw. I'm going to butcher this because I think it's an MS 250 that I have. It's the biggest homeowner grade saw they made that Stihl makes.
Yeah.
Like any bigger of a saw, I'd be in the ranch grade ones.
Have I sent you the picture of that old Shenandoah saw I have?
Is it a 2-stroke or a 4-stroke?
It's a 2-stroke, but I want to say it's a 70cc chainsaw.
Ooh.
It's a beast. It is the biggest saw I have ever held. It originally came with a 38-inch bar, and my grandfather put a 30 on it because he thought 38 was a bit big.
Nice.
Dude, the kerf on that chain is 3/8 of an inch. Nice. It's wicked.
No, what I keep, and I honestly, I haven't looked in a while, but I need to get a little bit better about it. I keep checking Facebook Marketplace for somebody that's like getting rid of like an MS, like a 360 or like one of the bigger professional grade Stihls.
They're pricey.
They're worth it. Every now and then I see one like used, or even like the older, like an OS 46, which is like the predecessor to the 460. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with them. And the parts are available, and it's not hard to like tear one apart down to basically the power head, throw a new carb at it, rebuild the whole thing.
They're made to be user serviced.
And I keep my eyes open because if I got a good deal on one, like a 36, a 46, something beefy, I would like to pick it up and make it into a little project saw. And the best part of it is that I'm fairly mechanically inclined, but I'm not like God's gift to small engine repair. If I got into a situation where I couldn't fix it, there's a Stihl dealership on the other side of town.
They will.
Oh, look, after Hurricane Ida, that's when I found this place, was after Ida. I didn't have any problems with the chainsaw I just got because it was brand new. And my brother-in-law was teaching me how to use one at the time. But after that, I went looking for the nearest Stihl dealer, and that's it. Yeah. And that place, come to find out, because I talked to apparently one of their regular customers the first time I went in, the day after Hurricane Ida, they opened up. They had two of their technicians out front under a tent on a table, and they were literally rebuilding and reworking chainsaws and sharpening chains 10 hours a day for a week.
good.
And like literally, you
That's
show up, you
community
pay
service.
cash, you drop your chainsaw on the bench, and like if it needed parts, they charge you for the parts. It was
Yeah.
cash only because I mean there were it was after Hurricane Ida. There was no power, there was no cell service, there was no internet service,
But they
you
had parts.
but they had all the parts that were not like within the first foot of the business because I mean the business itself flooded.
Mm-hmm.
But they were on high ground in the parking lot. They were rebuilding chainsaws. But anyway,
You know,
I
everybody
know
always
that
talks about getting a bigger chainsaw, and I understand where people are coming from with wanting a slightly longer chainsaw. But I can tell you this: with a 14-inch chainsaw, you can take down a 28 or 30-inch tree.
Mhm.
That's a lot of tree. That is a
I've got
lot of tree.
I've got an 18-inch bar on mine, and I don't feel from having used it to chop up some fairly large. I've chopped up trees where you had to get at it from both sides because the bar wouldn't even would just barely go halfway across the trunk.
Yeah.
But that chainsaw was really running out of ass
Oh, it does.
pushing that 18-inch bar.
They do.
So that's why I say that I would really like to get something bigger, something that would probably push a 26-inch bar better and do it with some authority. Because honestly,
it's faster. It is.
Well, and it would also give me the ability, I'd have to buy another bar and I'd have to hit can all the chains I bought because I have several chains now for this 18-inch bar. But I would have even dropped down to a 16-inch bar because if I had the bigger option.
Yeah, it gives you better torque on that smaller bar for sure.
Although
and you know, I see people often overspending on tools compared to what they really do need. I have needed that 30-inch saw exactly 2 times. I've cut down a lot of trees, and one of them was an old weeping willow that had a 5-foot diameter trunk. And you're only going to do it with a gigantic saw because it's just a gigantic tree.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never had that's the only tree I've ever had where my like 18 or 16-inch saw wouldn't have done the job. There's very few trees that size, really.
This is true. All right, we got to get back on the ban. We're 50 minutes in, and we have 3 more bullet points.
We could always do this again.
No. Let's power through. Okay, hood rat stuff. Everybody likes doing hood rat stuff. For the purposes of the rest of the show, when I say hood rat stuff, I am implying that this is only done in Minecraft or in Doom, if you're from my generation. Definitely not things. Definitely don't do this places you get put on government watch lists or where you're local and federal laws preclude such things. Anyway, with all that out the line, FM 31-21 Guerrilla Warfare and Special Forces Operations. If you want to learn how to screw with a much larger and better trained force of people, if you would like to cosplay as the Afghanis or the Vietnamese or the Taliban screwing with the U.S. Army, or in any way, shape, or form you'd like to resist an effort by a larger, better trained force to occupy your area, this is something you should probably be looking into. Fundamentals, resistance in guerrilla warfare, organization for the special forces effort, unconventional warfare. Where is it? Theater support, logistics, intelligence, communications, infiltration. This is very much a teaching the principles of how you and your buddies could resist another force in Minecraft.
Yeah.
Nick? Okay. You were being very, very still and very, very quiet, and I thought you got booted.
I was listening to you, and I did not realize I had not moved. Sometimes I will do that. That's all right. No, this is all good stuff. I mean, the trouble is anytime you try to practice anything like this, if you're not doing it on a paintball field or a speedball course or an airsoft course, you're probably running afoul of many laws. So
to a degree, but I would say especially this chapter 5 where you're talking about logistics, intelligence, communications,
That you can do.
Those are all things you really can do today. Even the infiltration part of this.
Well, I mean, if you start infiltrating government buildings in an unlawful manner, that can
Nope.
end poorly.
But think about this as guerrilla warfare, so we're not talking about infiltrating government buildings. We're talking about infiltrating other groups.
Sure.
Nick, don't you think it'd be helpful to know how to walk amongst the blue-haired hippies and not alarm them to your presence?
I don't know if I'm physically capable of doing that anymore. I don't know that I was physically capable of it at any point because they would say things and my brain would immediately have to correct them because they were wrong.
But if you were infiltrating, you would have to control that.
I don't know that I could. Like my self-control varies from that of like a 12-year-old and down some days, man. It's a struggle.
We need to put Rachel and Gillian in a support group together.
I think they are. I mean, they're both in a teachers union.
Gillian's not part of a teachers union.
All right, private school. That's a win.
So anyway, 31-21. Also 31-10, denial operations and barriers. If you would like to learn how to keep people out of places you don't want them, think about like you live on a rural property and you would like people not to just walk onto your property. Think about like if you live in a neighborhood and you would like to control access in and out of the neighborhood, blocking roads, presenting barriers, those sorts of things.
It also does go into a little bit, not just roads, but like common paths of travel that are not like your normal approved paths of travel. So how people use the land a little bit, things to look out for, important things.
Yes. So
natural corridors of travel. That's the word. That's the phrase I was looking for.
That's it. All right. What else do I have in here? TM 31-200, unconventional warfare devices and techniques. This
Booby
is definitely
traps, bombs, punji stakes.
This is definitely only approved for use in Minecraft or Doom. Do not do any of this in your mom's basement. She'll be pissed at you.
Yeah, it turns out all of that is felonies.
Don't do this in your wife's basement either. She'll be absolutely as pissed at you as your mom would be.
Yeah.
Anyway, incendiary systems, explosives, applications of explosives, small arms, harmful additives, chemical materials. I'm going to repeat once more for the stubborn and the slow. Do not do any of this unless you live in a non-extradition country. Or you have a much better lawyer than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess lawyers are that good sometimes, but you know, if it ever does come down to the point where you are resisting a superior force, it's that or die. And if you do this, you might die anyway, so you might as well play hardball, I guess.
I suppose. But yeah, it's just take a little peruse through here and you start to get the impression very quickly that when I said this was hood rat stuff, I meant it. I mean, this is literally thermite incendiary.
Yeah, I mean, thermite's not exactly that hard to make. It's also really good for stump removing. So
there's a
bunch you can play with.
There's a bunch of city folk right now that are a combination of intensely curious and horrified all at the same time.
The first time I learned how to remove stumps was a old farmer that had leftover dynamite. It's a very aggressive form of stump removal. I later learned how to use potassium nitrate and thermite.
Wait a second.
Incendiary cigars?
No, Japanese incendiary soap. I don't think I've read this one before.
Oh, you don't know?
Incendiary resembles a bar of ivory soap.
Yup.
Anyway, so yeah, if you want to learn how to make things that'll get you sent to Club Fed and be Bubba's roommate, then you know that this is a good place to go.
Mhm.
And last but not least, TM 31-210, Improvised Munitions Handbook. This is kind of more of the former, but also, I'm sure y'all, if y'all have stuck around a couple of shows, y'all have heard me and Nick talk about how stupidly easy it is to make firearms from things you find at hardware stores.
It is.
Well, that's where a lot of this is coming from, because this book is literally how to build things if you can't get them procured for you by the Department of Defense or Department of War,
Including how to make primary and secondary explosives out of household chemicals and natural byproducts.
Yep. For official use only. I don't want to get sued, and I'm already on enough government watch lists.
It's okay. Our tax money paid for this.
Literally, our tax money paid for all this. That's the beautiful part of all this, is that your tax money paid for this, and it's declassified, so it's available on the internet. We should probably talk about VPNs one day. Well, although, if you're watching this, you're on the same government watch list I am, it's too late.
Probably.
No,
it's fine. Look, most of this information, whether you find it in a TM or an FM or an SM, you can also find on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. Heck, there's a couple of guys I know of on Instagram that give out various black powder recipes and how to grind them into the appropriate F series in order to use in various firearms. Smokeless powder, a little more difficult to make. I mean, you can make most of these things at home. Just know that if you do start making explosives at home, there are laws regulating their manufacture, use, disposal, and storage. So do so at your own risk and know the possible consequences. Oh, look, a pipe pistol.
Yep, pipe pistol.
Yep.
Otherwise known as the poor man's liberator.
Mm-hmm.
God, how primitive do we have to be to call anything the poor man's liberator?
Well, I mean, realistically, yes, spring-fired shotgun.
Oh, I was going to call this the gun buyback special.
It is. I mean, at one point, my county was giving out $150 gift cards for firearms. I could make an awful lot of Glock frames out of PLA for $150, and they finally put a stipulation at the bottom of that that said no 3D printed or homemade firearms will be accepted. Because everybody was turning in pipe shotguns, 3D printed lowers, all kinds of random junk they were claiming were firearms for $150.
So just so we're all caught up, the government is so pearl clutching worried about ghost guns. They want to legislate them out of existence. But when you try to be a responsible citizen and turn one in,
when I try to be a responsible citizen and manufacture 10 to try and get $1,500 in gift cards, then that's across the line.
It sounded a little less like gaming the system when I said
it was absolutely intended to be a self-fulfilled tax refund.
Nick, are there any government watch lists you're not on? I feel like I asked this at least once an episode.
I don't know that I've ever violated FCC law.
Oh, here's how to make reusable primers.
Oh, there you go. Well, I mean, all you have to do is all primers are reusable with enough effort, but
pipe pistol for 45 caliber ammunition. Anyway, y'all get the point. The point is that there is a tremendous amount of this information out there. And Stewart is going to take me to task literally as soon as we wrap about why haven't I taken him up on the 15.6 terabytes of crap that he has. And I don't know, I might finally have to bend and yield to his exhaustive knowledge of preparedness.
I did get too angry with that. I don't know why that came up. I clicked a space bar by accident and that came up.
That was probably the last one you brought up.
Oh, that could be.
No, Raggle, I'm not on the sex offenders registry.
That's not a watch list. That's a congressional qualification.
No, but this little smartass right here. So I made a meme, and I posted it. I'm pretty sure you saw it. And it said the only government list I'm not on is Epstein's. And then this friggin' smart ass was like going to check the sex offender registry. And I said, same thing.
Yeah.
Epstein list, sex offender registry.
Hey, man. As far as I'm concerned, it's a congressional qualification now. To be one of Epstein's sex buddies.
Did you see that there were 536 no votes to releasing records about congressional sex allegations?
Yeah. Turns out if a congressperson, most of Congress thought it would be better if people that did sexual assault of other staffers in Congress got to stay in Congress and anonymous.
So the way I read that is there are 536 rapists and pedophiles. Act accordingly.
Yeah. At minimum, there's 536 of them in Congress, in the House.
I'm saying if you voted no, there is literally no justification for it. You are now guilty in my eyes, period.
My House rep voted no on that. So I will be writing a number of extremely strongly worded opinions on that fact. Polite, professional, but strongly worded. And you know what? I don't see how we can think otherwise at this point. Oh, you're protecting pedophiles. You're protecting rapists. You're protecting cannibalistic pedophiles. You're protecting rapists in Congress again. What?
I mean, Nick, you are saying that you're saying that as if we're supposed to conclude something else.
I'm saying that you're supposed to conclude that anyone that is attempting to protect sexual predators is themselves implicated in those crimes.
Your terms
that is not an opinion. I'm going to state that as a fact. You want to sue me? Fine, sue me. Prove that you are not protecting sexual predators. I want you to say that in open court.
But Nick, what if it collapses the system?
That's fine. Your terms are acceptable. I'm sorry. If the system is that broken that the only way it stays around is by raping and murdering and eating children, that's not a system that I think deserves to exist.
I am so freaking shocked we haven't gotten this stream taken down on YouTube yet, but there's still time.
Oh, we will.
All right, there's a couple of things. Extra credit, expedient homemade firearms, PA looting.
Gotta have it.
Like
get yourself a copy today.
We've talked about this before. I don't actually think I have a copy of that in that folder. I will put it in there as soon as we wrap.
Do that. Also, if you guys can find one, get one of these. It will help you in doing homemade expedient things. There are some various springs that you have to make in order to use these homemade expedient devices. And a lot of the techniques for how you do that are discussed in here, as well as equivalent wire types, ways that you can make equivalent springs of different wire types by changing the windings. A lot of very handy information. This is the guide to the book. It's stout. The actual book is like, no. It's quite exceptionally stout. So see what you can get. These are extraordinarily expensive brand new. Do not buy a brand new one. Find one secondhand on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, because I believe the brand new ones are like $300. They're exorbitant.
Guy, the comments might have answered the question. Being S-banned, they let be from what I've observed. And we are definitely shadow banned. I had about a week and a half of fun where apparently we snuck out from underneath the Instagram algorithm and the YouTube algorithm.
You'd be fine.
And all of our reels suddenly were had 15 to 20 times the reach they normally do for about a week and a half. It was pretty cool. And then I said something that upset the global pedophile elite, and promptly everything got slapped back down.
Yeah, I think at this point it is safer to assume that your local state and national representatives and Congress people are pedophiles than not.
I mean, I trust them, but I think we should verify their whereabouts.
I neither trust them.
I don't trust them. I'm being
I don't trust
facetious
them.
about that part.
We should verify all of this anyway. And I probably won't trust the results either way because they will investigate themselves and find they did nothing wrong again.
That's what the government tends to do.
They
All right.
do.
All right. I don't know that you call I would call this honorable mention, but it's not. It's just the thing we've talked about on multiple occasions.
Mm-hmm.
Know your opponent, rules for radicals, and unrestricted warfare. And we've talked about both of these books.
And apparently demonology books about Moloch, because apparently Alex Jones was right again. I need to get a jar for that.
You know, I have mixed feelings about Alex Jones because, like, in his, just hear me out. Just hear me out. In his prime, when he is like, when his little rant is twisted all the way up to like double digits,
it's a thing of beauty.
Okay, but a Phil rant is amateur hour compared to an Alex Jones cook-off.
Yes.
Like, I am shocked he has not had a literal medical episode in the middle of one of them. It is impressive. It is a beautiful thing to behold.
He would have made a fine drill sergeant.
Oh God, yes. But an Alex Jones rant to me is like entertainment. I don't expect it to be educational. Yes. But he's right often enough that it's alarming.
So I found out about Alex Jones' existence not through his stuff, but through other people making parodies of his stuff. And the longer time goes on, the more I see serious, intelligent people going, yeah, I mean, he's not 100% right, but he's also not wrong. And here's why he wasn't entirely wrong. Like, good God.
Yeah, I do have to agree with Raggle. I don't watch him regularly, and I disagree with Jeff Jag about Jones being an op. Candace Owens, I'm the jury is still out on.
Candace Owens, I think the issue with her is she got a taste of the spotlight and then it started to drift off her and she panicked. Yeah. And is now groping for anything she can.
But the difference between her and Alex Jones is okay, if you take the Alex
Jones's message has never deviated from a fairly fine point of the government is trying to murder us all.
But here's the thing about Alex Jones. If you take the body of work, all the crazy shit he said over the years.
Yep.
It's not that he's always right. It's that he's right often enough that when you look at this body of just like LSD infused insanity, and then he's actually right a bunch of times, it's a little unnerving.
Yeah, I mean, he was right about the cloned cows. I mean,
he was right about the frogs being turned gay by chemicals in the water.
He was right. He was right about the Moloch thing on the island. He was right about Jeffrey Epstein. It's like
he's not always right, but when he's right, it's
bad, man. It's really, really bad.
He's like the one-eyed guy with the huge arm that's got really horribly nearsighted that you send up to bat cleanup. He's gonna swing and miss a bunch
most of the time.
But when he connects and it just sails out into the next county, it's a beautiful thing to watch. Yeah. That's Alex Jones. Look, if he was a reporter, he'd be out of a job in a week. He swings and misses constantly, but every now and then he connects. And when he does, it's like, oh.
Yeah, I'm with Jeff. I mean, if we did discover they were lizard people, I would be more annoyed with the fact that Alex Jones was right yet again than the fact that they are lizard people, because then their behavior makes sense. Guy that comments the Sandy Hook thing. I think that I think he got carried away with himself.
Like got high on his own supply.
I think he got carried off with himself. I think he is so into his own head about some of the stuff that in that instance, yeah, he was horribly, horribly wrong. Now, do I think it was right to fine him the GDP of France? No. I
No,
don't
that
think
was
he
a
could have possibly done that much damage to a few families. Do I think it's kind of odd, some of the things that happened around that event? Yeah, I do. But I also think there's some really odd things that happened around the Vegas shooting and around Uvalde and a bunch of the other ones that we will never probably get answers of. There was a lot of really weird things that happened around the Trump assassination where they killed that guy and then we never heard anything about it ever again. The guy that was conveniently got within like 200 yards of the president on a roof that was ever so slightly sloped and too dangerous for Secret Service agents.
kind of makes you go,
Yeah, look, there can be things that happen that make stuff look kind of weird that are entirely non sequiturs. Shit happens like that all the time. Reality gets weird sometimes, and there's these weird idiosyncrasies that we can never really truly explain with some stuff. I think that's the case behind the Sandy thing. That's the case behind the Uvalde issue with the police not entering. I think that the Uvalde police never entering the building is a combination of horrible training scars that got a lot of people killed and cowardice.
yep.
When you bring those two together, you've got this is our trained response. We wait till we get the go word. And cowards that are like, I'm going to wait because nobody else is going in. And I'm going to keep everybody else from going in. Man.
I think I mean, to tie up Alex Jones, like my issue with that, with the way that all went down, is multiple things can be right at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It's very plausible that what he said about Sandy Hook was just flat out, completely and totally wrong and off and over the top.
Mm-hmm.
It's also very possible that the response to it was little more than the government weighing the scale to try to decimate one of the supporters of their opponents.
Yeah.
And it's also possible to admit that a lot of the things Alex Jones says sound freaking cuckoo bananas. And yet, every now and then, he's right, and that's terrifying.
I mean, so does the entirety of the Epstein files.
Yep.
And that is, from everything I have seen and read, an accurate depiction, or at least a partially accurate depiction of the events of his life.
Yep.
You know what I found really funny, Phil? Have you heard about this? Apparently, in the Epstein files, there's evidence that he had his prostate removed because of prostate cancer. And they mention finding a prostate in the body that is supposedly Epstein's after his supposed suicide in the jail cell. How do you have a prostate after you've had your prostate removed, Phil? That shit just doesn't grow back.
Yes, it does.
Stuart, look into the prostate thing. I need your wisdom.
Prostates do not grow back.
I'm fairly certain they don't grow back.
Anyway, rules for
I'm
radicals.
just saying,
we're going to have a conspiracy theory episode. You can talk for an hour about it.
About Epstein's prostate that shouldn't exist in the autopsy because he had it removed.
If you make me name the episode Epstein's prostate, you're going to get me banned off the internet.
Actually, I think it's already trending quite a ways over a few different sections of the internet.
Oh, to hell with it. I've already been banned off the internet twice. Might as well just, third time's the charm.
Well, that's good, Stuart. I'm glad you haven't had prostate cancer.
Yeah. Anyway, wrapping this up. Know your opponent, rules for radicals, unrestricted warfare. We've pretty well talked about both of them, and I will make sure I put copies in that Google Drive, that Google Drive folder that is shared.
Mm-hmm.
Over here or over there. I can never figure out like where the things are, and because my cameras, I think it's over there.
Damn it. I got it wrong. It's over there. I get it wrong every time too. Yep, you're right.
Okay. The funny part is, to me, you were right pointing at it and I was wrong.
Oh, because I'm on the opposite side on your screen.
Yeah, and also my camera's reversed, so But anyway, I will make sure I put copies of those in the folder for anybody that wants to grab them. unrestricted warfare I've talked about before. It's a really interesting look at the mindset of fifth generational warfare, like how you attack someone without attacking them, because everybody's got nukes and nobody wants to pop the cork on the world.
Yeah.
And then
that book right there is another proof in my theorem of that mutually assured destruction is it wouldn't occur, because they want to do everything possible to do warfare without firing nukes. I don't know, man. I don't. It would take a lot to convince me. It would actually probably take a multiple nuclear exchanges between two powers to convince me that if somebody got nuked, that they would immediately respond with nukes.
So I don't think the theory is necessarily that like one side gets nuked and they respond by nuking the other side. I think it's more the idea that like, given the early warning systems for ICBMs, the idea is that if I see all of their nukes go into the air, then all mine go into the air in response.
Right, but my point is, I don't think that would be the response.
It may not.
I don't think it would, because because
the problem is the only way to test the theory is extra spicy.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely one of those. It's one of those undisprovable theories or unprovable theories. I just don't think that people that would attain the level of power that would allow them to respond to a nuclear exchange with an unlimited nuclear exchange. I'm not certain. Well, I don't know, man.
Well, but here's the other trick is that even if you're trying not, even if you're doing this in the guise of like fifth generation warfare, it's post-nuclear age, everybody's got nukes, we don't want anybody throwing nukes around.
Right.
It's also the fact of like, if we had a superpower versus superpower unlimited war today, if everyone shelved their nukes, the death toll for one country to overwhelm another is still going to be millions upon millions upon millions of people.
It would be dozens of millions at the least.
So the problem becomes, if you can avoid that bloodshed, you can avoid the mutual destruction to your economies, you can avoid decimating whole generations of young men on the battlefield. If you can do that and still take your opponent down several pegs, that's better. And that's where the idea of
Chinese aren't going to have the manpower advantage very much longer either.
Yeah, well, all the more reason for them to utilize the principles in unrestricted warfare to try to harm someone else without them having to commit their military to the effort. Like that's really what the book is, regardless of the justification of whether or not you're trying to prevent nukes or you're trying to do it without committing a kinetic force. It's how do I harm that other nation who is my economic opponent without having to use my military against them. And then Rules for Radicals, we did a whole episode on where we basically talked about, like the mindset of Marxists and how they think and how they operate, which even for me was educational with what I already knew before I read through that cover to cover.
Agreed.
Yeah. Let's see if we have any interesting comments before we roll this. Guy that comments, I like the drone stuff, kind of just makes everything a stalemate and nobody gets to steamroll the other team. But, Nick, we were talking with the patrons earlier today about World War I and about like how fast warfare evolved over the course of that war. Like you start off World War I with dragoons in cavalry charges, and you end at machine guns and artillery pieces.
Actually, some of the last battles of the war still had dragoon cavalry charges.
Yes, but my point is that we start the war with basically like Napoleon's armies in terms of tech level.
Yeah, well, at least in forms of tactics.
Yeah,
a lot of them were still doing massed troop movements at a brisk walk.
And we end almost at the point, like not at the point of like lightning war, World War II, Nazi Germany, but we end at a tech level that's quickly approaching that. Like we have primitive
stormtroopers, air support. We
have primitive air support. We have primitive repeating firearms. We have widespread use of Maxim guns and Lewis
Mm-hmm.
guns, machine guns. We have primitive tanks. We have primitive chemical weapons. Like, you have to understand that, like, World War II gets a lot of the press for I guess gets more notoriety, but like World War One as an exercise in pushing military technology, it advanced warfare very, very rapidly over that period of time. So my comment with that as the backdrop to guy that comments is like, I think that while we're watching drone warfare really come into its own in the Ukraine war right now, I don't think drones are going to be a viable area denial application for very long, because something is going to counter drones. Something has to.
Well, I think what we're seeing here is very similar to the Spanish Civil War in that this is the testing bed for a lot of new and semi-new military tech for the West versus the East. Look at what happened in Venezuela and what's currently happening in Iran. This is basically the U.S. going, they have all of Russia and China's best anti-air stuff. Let's just blow it all up and see how well our equipment does.
You know what that comment makes me think of, though? Talking about drones used for area denial. Do you remember the old sci-fi movie from the 90s, Screamers? It's based on a Philip K. Dick Hicks story. I think that's kind of that's where my mind goes when you talk about using drones for area denial.
I mean, you could.
But something's going to come along to counter that because it has to.
Well, at the very least, not necessarily that it has to, just that humans are intelligent. They're going to find a way to try and fix that.
But the other thing I was going to bring up, since we were talking about military technology, did you hear about one of Iran's hypersonic missiles bypassed Iron Dome today?
No, I did not.
Yep. Mach 15 hypersonic cruise missile went right through Iron Dome and struck a
well, Iron Dome doesn't have hypersonic missiles currently that we know of.
Well, but hypersonic missiles are kind of like the bleeding edge of that technology stream right now. The idea was always like, with ICBMs is that we get this thing way up high in the air, we come up over the top, we drop it, and then
drop it in a ballistic arc that's not trackable. Yeah.
And then the minute most other nations figured out a way to counter that, then the new method, I think it was the Russians that initially started pushing this idea, but the new method of beating all the missile defense systems was hypersonic.
Yeah, or nap of Earth missiles that then transition to top attack.
Yeah. And I mean, I saw a video from this morning, and I mean, dude, it's literally blink of an eye fast. It's shocking.
I would be shocked if we don't have some matter of interception technology that can at least attempt to knock down those missiles. Simply because, look, Iran, they put a lot of money into their military, sure. It's a wildly different scale.
Well, it's all
we put in
that it's also a case of proximity, because like in order for someone to try to get an attack in on us, you either have to come over the North Pole or you have to cross a couple of really big oceans. Whereas for Iran to play FAFO with all their neighbors is like, throw something in the air and it's going to land.
Well, look at Russia. They've been trying to play that game in Ukraine now for how long?
Stuart's correcting me, as he loves to. We started the hypersonic missiles, and Hillary Clinton gave it to the Ruskies.
Look, I have no idea if that's accurate. It probably is. He usually is correct. I'm just saying, if we are giving away military technology, odds are we have something 2 to 3 generations more advanced than that. Because, look, the Chinese roll out a plane and they claim it can do XYZ. It doesn't, in matter of fact, do that. Neither does the Russian plane. So we roll out a plane that is even better than their plane's claims that they can't reach. And our plane works. The amount of money we put into our military industrial complex compared to the amount of capital other countries have available not even that they put into theirs, that they have available, period, it's an order of magnitude different.
It's the reason we don't have free
health.
healthcare.
Well, yeah, it is. And you know what? Oh, well, I guess you got to pick those trade-offs sometimes. I mean, I'm not really a fan of the extremely vast sums of money we literally light on fire, blowing up brown people in mud huts, but I'm not in charge. I don't want to be.
I don't know, man. I think a Nic and Phil president, vice president ticket would be hilarious.
One and or both of us would be assassinated in record time.
I mean,
because I would just get rid of the CIA, and that's what killed Kennedy. Because he wanted to get rid of the CIA.
And I would definitely audit the Fed just for fun, just to flick the light on and watch the cockroaches scatter.
You know what they would just do? They would just fail it on purpose and be like, "What are you gonna do?" We don't.
Oh,
that's what they would do.
I was thinking I would be working out in a garage, even though I don't own a weight bar, and drop it on my neck.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's usually what happens.
Anyway, but this was the Prepper Library, and that QR code is to a very small folder that has some things in it. And I'm going to put some more as soon as this wraps. So, if you're watching this on stream, give it a couple hours, and then you're welcome to go and hit it. And I don't know if Nick throws some stuff my way or anybody else does, I'm more than happy to just keep adding to it. And it's not going to take up a crazy amount of space on my Google Drive. But I think that
depends on if I start sending you gun blueprints.
I mean, they're legal until California figures out how to enforce their state laws on the internet.
No, Supreme Court has ruled they are legal.
I was being facetious. I don't give a shit what California says. I don't live in California. I don't live anywhere near California, and California can suck my ass.
To quote another Phil, it is the land of fruits and nuts.
Yeah. Well, to quote this Phil, California is going to have to show up to my front door with their big boy pants on if they want to have a discussion with me about why their state laws don't work in Louisiana. Have fun, eat shit, and die. Anyway. But we are going to go ahead and wrap this one up. It's late. I have an early morning and a busy morning tomorrow. And as we said before, next week's show is pre-recorded. So you're welcome to come. You're welcome to join. Nick and I may or may not be in the comments, but it's not going to be a live recording because I have personal things that I need to do that day. And I really need to just clear my plate on that Thursday and Friday and focus on the home front for a bit. More than likely, the following week, we'll be back to live. And to keep the natives from getting too restless, I probably need to load up the Patreon feed with some more content like I did this week.
Yes.
I mean, we're around episode 468, I think.
Oh.
And I'm putting episodes in the 200s on the Patreon feed. So those are from several years ago, but it's still great episodes from back in the day. So that's one of the perks of being a patron. You get access to a whole nother podcast of shows that is from way, way, way back in the past. That's not available to the public any longer. So if you've only been watching us for the last couple of years and you want to hear the show from the pre-Nick days when it was Andrew.
Much Andrew.
Yes.
Still or Trek.
Yeah. I mean.
I think he was. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Trek's been in and out for years.
Long time.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. It's 9:00 at night. I have an early wake up in the morning. Same. And this has been the Prepper Library. Just the one thing I'm going to tell y'all guys is you might start at what we laid out tonight. Do not stop. The information that's provided in those TMs and FMs and those guides, it's useful. A lot of it's been superseded by my newer information. The point is not to get these books and then that is all you read and you are now proficient in life. The point is to use that to learn and to grow and to increase your knowledge so that on the day when the lights turn out for the last time and it's time to do hood rat stuff, you have some kind of a basis of knowledge from which to utilize, to draw from.
Absolutely.
All right. Matter of fact, going out the door. Good night, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And I won't talk to y'all next week. Neither will Nick. But stick around for the show anyway. Bye, y'all.
Bye.